Right, so taking a little study break here. Got a couple minutes. I thought I'd shoot a quick video. So right now, I just want to recap on where I'm at in my law school journey. I know I promised to get a little better audio, maybe do a super fly intro. Not happening today, but maybe later. So right now, I've got two midterms this week. One I took today, another one I have on Friday. What's different about this semester is my midterms actually don't count for a grade, which is really nice, but it does take a little bit of that hustle out of you, when you have other stuff going on and it's not for a grade. You're not quite as motivated to study. 3-4 hours for it. I still put in, I'd say, adequate amount of time, but it's been a pretty crazy week for me. But that's interesting, and I wonder if that's strategic, whereas my first semester, one of my midterms was 15% of my total grade and the other was 40%. Now they're both worth 0. It's just for practice. So just a little interesting tidbit. I wanted to touch on a few different things. I'm taking LMC2 this semester, so I'm doing a trial brief as opposed to a predictive memo. The difference is in the predictive memo, it's more of an objective stance on a legal issue, whereas the trial brief is extremely persuasive. And one of the things I'm noticing is that I'm becoming more efficient with my writing and my research. It's still hell, it really is, but that's only because I'm very new to it. I'm noticing that going through cases and doing the research, taking the time to actually brief the cases, even if I'm not 100% sure I want to use them, has been instrumental in me getting my first draft out quicker and having stronger arguments, just because I don't end up going over the same cases over and over again, in my search. So I think that's a really good tip for anybody who's going into LMC and wondering what they can do to become more efficient, because the reality of the things we're doing as first year law students is not that difficult. It's just that it's a new language. We've never done anything like this before. So I think, these tasks are very attainable for us. They're not asking anything of us that, a practicing attorney wouldn't be able to do in a couple hours, but it takes us a few days or a week to do because it's brand new. So I try to keep that in perspective. So that's enough about LMC. I want to talk about internships right now. We are in a huge mad rush to lock down internships before really the end of February, March type, March probably be a little late, but me and all my classmates, we're all trying to get internships for the summer. So that way we can get some legal experience and leverage that for next year when we want internships as 2Ls. And all I want to say about that is I've been noticing a lot of my classmates stressing out about it and spending a lot more time than I would applying on Simplicity and LinkedIn and job boards. And what I want to say about that is it's great to really want to get some experience as a first year student. I think everybody should strive for it, but it shouldn't detract from the primary goal here, which is to learn our doctrinal courses, become proficient legal writers, and pass the bar. Any time that now I'm speaking to my classmates, if you're finding yourself spending more time applying internships and stressing out more over internships than you are stressing out over your classes that actually count, whereas the internship is optional, there's something off there. You should recalibrate your priorities. And the reason I say that is because once we finish the semester, what we're going to have on our transcript is a reflection of the work we put in over the past 2 or 3 months. That's going to stay with us forever. That's going to help us get our first job, and the information we retain from the semester is going to help us either be more prepared or less prepared for the bar. I'm not saying the internship's not important, but I'm saying understand that it's not as important as killing your classes your first semester. And that goes for anybody who's entering law school. Just know you're going to get wrapped up in that culture of stressing out over what everybody else is stressing out over, and have some methods in place to where you can take a step back from that. You don't want to get swept up in the wave of stressing for the sake of stressing or worrying about things because other people are worrying about them. You want to focus on what's important for you. Last thing I want to touch on here is the different study habits that I'm using this semester. I watched a couple videos on YouTube, and the gentleman who was giving some advice was not talking about reading cases, but he was giving advice to middle school and high school students about how to properly read a textbook to retain the maximum amount of information that you can. And I thought it was interesting because the advice he gave was pretty parallel to what I've heard from some of our professors, but essentially, I mean, he was saying, look at the chapter you have to read, flip through it, see how long the paragraphs are in the passages and see what's bolded. What are they highlighting? And then go all the way to the end and look to see if you have any quizzes. The quizzes are going to be key because whatever you need to know to answer the quizzes are what the author thinks is most important in that whole chapter. So that way you're already going to be picking up as you read, going back to the beginning. As you read through that chapter, you already know what's going to be important for you to know. For me, I found going through and just looking at what's in bold and reading some of the hypos at the end of the chapter, which is more specific to, case books, but reading I should really say my contracts book. But, read the questions first, read to understand what you need to know before you digest that information, because it's going to help it click much faster. You're going to retain it much more than if you just kind of go into it blind or just go into it raw and just dig in and just start reading, which is what I've been doing, but I've recently changed that. So, those are just a couple things I wanted to mention that I'm picking up on. I will say, as far as mental health, I'm much less stressed than I was last semester. And it's crazy because I'm buying a house in 3 days. I'm closing on it. I got to miss a day of class to do some interviews with the program that I'm a part of for school. And I have a midterm on Friday. But I mean, as I sit here before you, I'm fine. I don't feel overwhelmed or anything. And I think a big part of that is getting the first semester out of the way and knowing I can handle it. And knowing that what I did was working because I got good grades. So that's all I got for you tonight. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. I'm real humbled to even have people, looking at these videos and asking me questions about it, either on my YouTube or on my Facebook or in person. This was just a little project I started. And we'll see what I can do with it later on. But this has been really cool so far, and I hope this is helpful.